Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Isaac Christopher Lubogo. Today we're going to discuss something that have to do with the sports and the law. Listen, even as we just got into the signing of the Sports Act, let's first of all comprehend what sports is in this perspective in terms of the things that are missing. The intricate web of sports basically points at a number of issues, in my opinion, that have to be comprehended when we're talking about sports generally. And some of the things that may have been overlooked, those are the ones that I'd like to talk about. And in lieu of doing that, I'm trying to talk about unlocking Uganda's sporting potential in terms of predictive behavior in the age of economic growth. And I'm going to highlight some of the challenges that I would seriously imagine would be part and parcel of the Sports Act, as it were. So in the recent years, the world of sports has actually witnessed a profound transformation, basically driven by growing economic demands, and the economic industry has actually evolved into a multi-billion-dollar global enterprise with a significant financial stake attached to it. So as a result, understanding and predicting sports behavior basically has become increasingly crucial in terms of stockholders, but also ranging from athletics to teams and sponsors and even broadcasters. And so my essence is to try and create what we talk about in terms of sports decoding, in terms of what they call predictive sports behavior, with some kind of empirical evidence to support my argument. Number one, I would like to appreciate something they call the power of data analytics, and I'm not sure if it is envisaged in the Sports Act as we speak today. The data analytics has actually emerged as a game changer in sports industry in terms of advanced technology and also proliferation of data sources such as player performance statistics, fan engagement metrics, and social media sentiment in terms of analysis that have actually provided for a treasure of what they call trove into insights of sport in terms of professionals, in terms of teams, in terms of organizations, in terms of employer data driven approaches to optimize their their strategies in terms of performance and improve in terms of outcomes, as it were. Now, I'll give an example. This is what they call the money ball. The money ball phenomenon is popularized by what they call the Oakland Athletics in Major League Baseball, MLB, which exemplifies the effectiveness of data analytics in sports. So by using advanced statistical methods, these athletes actually achieve remarkable success in terms of limited budget, but also in terms of challenging conventional wisdoms in player scouting and recruitment. There's also what we call predictive analytics in terms of injury prevention. Yeah, these are things that I think are important for future sports. So injuries can actually have a significant impact on the athlete's career and the team's performance in terms of predictive analytics that are now being used, by the way, to identify injury risks and even allowing teams to take what they call proactive measures to protect their athletes. What we see here in terms of research conducted by sports scientists has actually shown that predictive analytics can actually accurately predict the likelihood of an athlete actually sustaining an injury based on various factors, including what they call player workload or even fatigue levels, and even in the injury in terms of the history. So this information has actually enabled teams to make what they call data-informed decisions on player rotation, for example, and even training programs. And these are things that ultimately, this is the future of sports. How about what they call fan engagement and revenue generation? The sports industry basically relies heavily on fan engagement in terms of what they call fan loyalty for its economic sustainability, in terms of predictive sports behavior analysis that can actually help organizations better, to understand their fans best better, and also tailor marketing strategies that actually optimize the fan experience as well. I will also argue that numerous studies have actually demonstrated the effectiveness of what they call predictive modeling in increasing what they call fan engagement. For instance, data-driven strategies for, I'll give an example, for ticket pricing or merchandise recommendations and even personalized content delivery have actually resulted in what they call a high revenues and greater fan satisfaction. As we go, we're going to discuss interesting arguments. I'll make a lot of comparative analysis with super sportsmen and make the point much better for you. In terms of sports betting, for example, and wagering, the legalization of sports betting, for example, in many regions has actually further amplified the need for what they call predictive sports behavior in terms of analysis. So understanding the dynamics of sports events can actually offer what they call a competitive advantage for bookmakers, even bettors alike. Okay, and in terms of empirical support, you would like to argue that the growing sports betting, for example, industry relies on predictive models that set odds and even lines. Yeah, and so research in this field has actually shown that accurate predictive models can actually lead to better informed betting decisions and more profitable outcomes. Yeah, that is something that is extremely important to comprehend. If you're talking about aspects that have to do with sponsorship and endorsement deals, and I say these are novel areas in the world of sports that are extremely important. Athletes, for example, even organizations often rely on what they call sponsorship and even endorsement deals as a primary source of revenue. So predictive sports behavior in terms of analysis can actually help athletes and even sponsors to identify lucrative opportunities to create what they call mutually beneficial partnerships. Yeah. If you're arguing that in terms of empirical support, then we can argue that market research and even case studies have actually revealed that predictive analysis of an athlete's performance, for example, in terms of popularity, in terms of potential marketability, can actually have significant impact on the value of endorsement in terms of the deals, but also in terms of the brands that are increasingly using what they call predictive models to ensure their investment in sports and partnership generate what they call a positive return. Yeah. So for starters, it's important to understand that in the era of growing economic demands in the sports industry, the importance of decoding and predictive sports behavior cannot be overstated, and that's where I'm coming from. So we need to employ things like data analytics, predictive modeling, and even empirical research that have to be combined to revolutionize the way in which sports is actually played or marketed or even monetized. So understanding the nuances of sports behavior and leveraging predictive insights have actually become essential in terms of tools for athletes, in terms of the teams, in terms of the sponsors, and even stockholders alike. So the sports industry continues to evolve. These need to be harnessed in terms of the power of predictive analytics so that we can be position ourselves to thrive in this dynamic landscape. Yeah. Now, let's discuss some key areas where data analytics, for example, or even predictive modeling have actually made strong cases in terms of the sports industry, supported by what they call practical real examples. Yeah. And as I said, these are novel areas that have not been envisaged in the law as we speak today, and that's the advocacy that I'm trying to make. If you're arguing in terms of injury prevention and even player health, for example, in terms of injury prevention and player health, we have to comprehend and understand that injury prevention and player health are actually paramount in terms of sports and basically impacting both the individuals' careers of us in terms of the athletes and the overall performance and the financial success in terms of sports organization. Yeah. So the relevance of using what they call data analytics for injury prevention lies in its potential to actually mitigate risks and also optimize the players' availability and also protect what they call long-term investment in these athletes, right? Now, we need to comprehend how data, for example, can be analyzed for purposes of utilization. Yeah, data analytics in injury prevention involves collecting and even analyzing what they call a vast array of players in terms of data, including what they call physical metrics, for example, or even biomechanics, and in terms of injury history and also performance statistics. So, for example, machine learning algorithms are employed to identify patterns and even correlations and predictive indicators in terms of injury risks. So these insights are actually used to develop what they call proactive strategies for managing the player's health. Yeah. In terms of where it is applied, professional sports, for example, especially in terms of professional, sports leagues. I'll give an example, for example, the NBA or the NFL, or maybe the English Premier League, as well as individual teams and even sports organizations have actually embraced what they call data analytics for injury prevention. So athletes monitoring systems have what they call wearable technology in terms of in-game tracking tools that are actually used to gather real-time data on the players. So sports medicine, for example, in terms of professionalism, in terms of they work closely with data scientists and even analysts to develop what they call a comprehensive injury prevention plan. Yeah, and that is extremely important. So the question is whether or not our law envisages and captures all that. Yeah. Now, in terms of empirical statistical data, we argue and say that compelling evidence in terms of the effectiveness of data analytics in terms of injury prevention has actually been overwhelming, in the sense that, for example, there was a study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine that showed that the use of predictive analytics and even athlete monitoring reduced the injury rate among soccer players by about 30%. Yeah, so I'm giving you the facts here. Now, on the other hand, an analysis by the NBA players tracking data revealed that the players who are effectively managed using predictive analysis, in terms of rest and recovery, showed about 23% decrease in injuries compared to those without such strategies. Yeah, so that tells you where we're going and why it is important. In terms of the future of injury prevention through data analytics. The future of injury prevention through data analytics is actually promising. So technology, for example, advances and data collection actually methods become more sophisticated, we can expect even more accurate predictive models. Wearable technologies, for example, in particular, is becoming more integrated into athletes' gear, for example, providing what they call real-time data that can be instantly analyzed and make decisions during these games. So in addition, what we call telemedicine and even remote monitoring is likely to play a larger role in terms of enabling players to monitor and even be treated from anywhere. Yeah, that becomes super important. Now, the use of AI, on the other hand, in terms of machine learning algorithms, will also continue to evolve, of finding what they call real-time insights and even decision for sports in terms of professionalism. So, in terms of data collection and analysis techniques, advanced sports organizations will have to better equip themselves to protect their athletes in terms of enhancing performance, and also in terms of maintaining what they call economic sustainability in terms of the investment. Yeah, I'll give an example. What they call the Philadelphia 7Rs in the NBA have actually employed what they call predictive analytics to manage their player effectively. They have actually used what they call load management in terms of data to manage when and how long the player should actually rest, preventing the overuse of injuries. For example, one notable example is what they call Embiid, whose playing time was actually carefully monitored, leading to reduction of injuries and increase in terms of their performance, or his performance for that purpose. Yeah, and then another aspect in terms of what they call fan engagement and even personalization. Now, when you're arguing fan engagement and personalization, in terms of relevancy, in terms of sports analytics and decoding of sorts that we're talking about, fan engagement and even personalization are critical in the modern sports landscape. Yeah, for example, where an active and even loyal fan becomes, their contributions significantly affect the financial success of sports organizations. So relevancy basically relies on retaining and even expanding fan interest, which translates into increased viewership in terms of merchandise sales, but in terms of also sponsorship opportunities. Yeah. So again, the importance there cannot be underestimated. And how this works or utilized is that data analytics for fan engagement and even personalization basically involves collecting and analyzing what they call fan-related data, including online behavior, social media activity, purchase history, and even stadium attendance patterns. So in terms of machine learning algorithms, they are actually used as segments for fans and even predict their preferences and tailor content and experiences according to recommendation, personalized emails, for example, targeted marketing campaigns that are common in terms of application. My friend, this may look like what? Rocket science, but it's extremely important, because that's the future of sports. Where is it applied? Professional sports leagues, for example, in terms of teams, in terms of major sports streaming platforms, for example, extensively use data analytics to engage fans. As I said, platforms like NBA, League Pass, or even MLB TV use data-driven recommendations to keep fans engaged. Social media platforms, for example, also play a very important algorithm in terms of personalized content, and even teams in terms of stadium experiences and even season ticket holders, as it were. And if you're going to argue that in terms of statistical data, we will argue and say that statistical data underscores the value of data analytics in terms of fan engagement. I'll give an example. A study by Adobe found that personalized email campaigns in the sports industry, achieved about 26% high click-through rate in terms of a 7% high conversion rate compared to generic campaigns. Yeah, and another research by what they call Nielsen revealed that fans who actually received personalized sports content watched 25% more live sports content and spent about 20% more time engaged with sports-related digital content. Yeah, so you can see how much the data analytics is actually affecting the overperformance of the sports industry, as it were. And that's the point I'm trying to say. Now, in terms of future for fan engagement through data analytics, the future in terms of fan engagement through data analytics will likely see even more sophisticated personalization in terms of advanced AI algorithms, which will analyze data in real time and also provide fans with what they call contextually relevant content and recommendations. So ensuring a highly tailored and even enjoyable fan experience. Virtual reality, for example, even augmented reality technologies are also expected to play a role, allowing these fans to immerse themselves in sports events from even the comfort of their homes. So additionally, as even fan data collection and even analysis techniques continue to advance in terms of the teams, in terms of organization, they will have deeper understanding of their fan base, enabling them to build stronger and even more enduring relationship with their supporters. I'll give an example. with the popular, for example, English Premier League official website, which utilizes predictive modeling to provide fans with what they call personalized content recommendations. So they analyze the user data, such as browsing history and even favorite teams, to suggest articles, videos, merchandise, leading to high user engagement and longer time spent on the platform. So this is how subconsciously they get into our minds as fans, and then they can be able to affect our decisions in almost every sphere of life, as it were. Then there's what I call drafting and even talent scouting. Drafting and talent scouting. Now, if you're arguing drafting and talent scouting, which is something again very important in the sports arena, in terms of relevancy, we could argue that drafting and talent scouting are actually pivotal in terms of the long-term success of the sports franchise as well. So identifying and even acquiring, for example, top talent can significantly impact a team's competitiveness in terms of fan engagement and revenue generation. So therefore, the relevance of data analytics in this context lies in making informed decisions that maximize the potential of these athletes, as it were. How is this going to be used, or how is it used? Data analytics, as I said, for talent scouting involves the collection of analysis of wide, array of data, including, for example, player performance statistics, physical attributes, and even psychological profiles. In terms of machine learning models that are used to predict how players might actually perform in professional leagues. In terms of the feature potential, in terms of how might actually fit in the team's playing style, for example, in terms of video analysis, in terms of scouting reports, in terms of performance metrics that are all integral in terms of the process. Listen, this is super important. It looks loose in a way, but this is what controls sports today, and I'm going to make justification for that. In terms of professional sports leagues across the world, including the NBA and NFL, the European soccer leagues, for example, have actually integrated data analytics into their scouting and even drafting processes. Teams often have what they call dedicated data analytics departments that actually work closely with scouts and even coaches to identify such prospects. So it goes too much. Some of you look at things and you just wait for the result. But the depth at each in terms of is extremely important. In terms of empirical data, statistical data supports the value of data analytics in terms of drafting and even talent scouting. I'll give an example. A study published in the journal Sports Analytics found that NBA teams employing data-driven models in their draft selections achieved a 5% increase in terms of draft success rate. And as measured by the number of players making an all-star team or what they call all NBA team. So another example, European soccer clubs, FC Porto, for example, has used data analytics in terms of scouting, resulting in successful acquisition. For instance, the fanfare of what Martinez one time in 2012 that led to significant increase in terms of the performance of the club, as it were. Those are just basic examples, but very important. Now, in terms of future for talent scouting through data analytics, the future in terms of scouting through data analytics holds even more potential for innovation in terms of advancement, especially in computer vision and even AI that can further enhance player analytics in terms of tracking data, wearable technology that can provide comprehensive insights into the athlete's physical condition on the field in terms of the decisions and also performance in terms of the metrics. So the combination of these technologies and predictive models will make talent scouting more data-driven, efficient, and reliable. So teams basically will continue to invest in data analytics to actually gain what they call competitive edge in identifying and even acquiring what they call top talent. I guess an example is the NBA's Dallas Mavericks, for example, that are known for their data-driven approach in terms of the player selections. For example, in the NBA draft, they used data analytics as a model to identify particular players like Luka as a top prospect, and they became a superstar in terms of that. So it becomes very essential in terms of analyzing and even identifying talent, as I said. In terms of sports betting and wagering, as I said, in terms of the relevancy for it, the sports betting industry has actually grown significantly in recent years, making it an essential part of the sports in terms of the economy, in terms of data analytics, in terms of sports betting becomes super relevant for the bookmakers and even what they call bettors and the like. And even for bettors, it's about making informed wagers. So that's extremely important. Now, if you argue that in terms of data analytics, again, you may want to appreciate that in sports betting, it will involve collecting vast amounts of data, for example, such as historical game outcomes, player statistics, weather conditions, for example, injury reports, and even and more. So even advanced algorithms use this data to calculate the odds and even the lines and even the probabilities in terms of the various outcomes. So bettors use data analytics, for example, to inform their betting strategies, including understanding the betting trends and even identifying the value of the bets, as it were. And in terms of its applicability, data analytics in terms of sports betting is basically applied in various contexts. For example, from what they call online sports book to brick and mortar, casinos, for example. So even bookmakers use data-driven models to set odds, while bettors assess data analytics tools and services to inform their wagers. Not so. So that is extremely important in terms of what is required. In terms of statistical data, someone will argue and say that statistical data highlights the importance of data analytics in terms of sports betting. And I'll give an example. In a study by the American Gaming Association, for example, it was found that the US sports betting industry generated over $10 billion in revenue. That's even as far as 2020. With the legal sports betting market growing substantially, the growth is actually indicative of the demand of the sports betting, which relies on data analytics. So think about that. That's something that speaks for itself. So data analytics basically provides, as I said, sports insight, and we could argue that it's reported that bettors who actually consistently track and even analyze betting data saw an increase in terms of their return on investment, by 5 to 10% compared to the casual bettor. So it's a question of studying the system. That's the point I'm trying to make, that even as we engage in sports, future sports betting through, for example, data analytics, the future of sports betting through, for example, that will continue to be shaped by technological advancement, machine learning, for example, and even AI that will play a central role in refining what they call predictive models, resulting in more accurate odds and even lines. Live in games, for example, betting will become even more dynamic. Real-time data analytics informs betting opportunities, for example, during the matches, and the integration, for example, of what they call blockchain technology for secure and even transparent transaction may also play a part in terms of the future of sports betting. So as the industry continues to evolve and expand, data analytics will actually remain a vital tool for both bookmakers and bettors seeking an edge in this lucrative sector. You just can't ignore that, and that's why I'm imploring that even as you engage in sports, the brain has to be implied. DraftKings, for example, in terms of example, a leading sports betting company utilizes advanced algorithm to set odds and even lines. So their success is evident on the growth of their business, with the market cap exceeding about $20 billion as of about 2021. Think about that. Now, in terms of sponsorship and endorsement deals, again, another vital area that cannot be left out. If you're arguing in terms of sponsorship and endorsement deals, in terms of relevancy, sponsorship and endorsement deals are a major source of revenue for athletes in terms of the teams and even the organization in terms of the sports industry as a whole. So the relevance of sports analytics lies in making well-informed decisions when entering into these partnerships and even ensuring that they actually yield what they call a positive return on investment. How does data analytics be applied in terms of sponsorship and endorsement? Data analytics in terms of sponsorship and endorsement will involve what they call analyzing a wide range of data, including an athlete's on-field performance, social media influence, and marketability and engagement with fans. So in terms of also machine learning algorithms that are actually used to predict how a partnership or even may impact on the brand's visibility and revenue. So additionally, data analytics assesses the potential alignment of an athlete or a team with the brand's values and the target in terms of the audience. Guys, sports industry is a super billion-dollar industry, and that's the reason why this is extremely important. We're talking about go beyond cheap sports. It's super heavy, multi-billion sports. The practice basically, for example, is applied across various sports, as I say, with athletes, with teams, with brands, collaborating on endorsement deals, for example, in terms of organization, in terms of data-driven models to identify the most suitable partners and even brands, and even employ what they call analytics to gauge the return of investment on this partnership. I'm going to make justification in terms of some heavily paid athletes, and you'll make that comparative analysis. An empirical study in terms of statistical data underscores the value of data analytics in terms of sponsorship and even in terms of what they call endorsement deals. I'll give an example. A Nielsen study found that every $1 spent, for example, on endorsement deals with a top tier athlete, brands generated an average of about $3.6 in media value. indicating a significant return on investment. Yeah, I'll give an example. In a case study, for example, Coca-Cola's partnership with FIFA World Cup led to a substantial increase in terms of sales. The brand leveraged data analytics to assess the potential impact and even exposure, which was later, validated through increased revenue. Guys, these are things. It's a $1 billion industry that we're failing to take advantage of. The future of sponsorship and endorsement deals through, for example, data analytics, as I said. Yeah, and it will continue to evolve. So in terms of advanced data collection, analytic techniques that will provide for more insight into what they call fan engagement, social media influences, and even athletics performance, enabling more precise decision making. Yeah, blockchain further is another one. In terms of blockchain technology that will actually be used to create what they call transparent and even immutable records of brand athlete in terms of athlete partnership. So as brand seeks more targeted and even measurable returns on their investment, data analytics will actually be instrumental in terms of creating mutually beneficial sponsorship and endorsement deals, enhancing the financial sustainability of sports organizations and athletes alike. Yeah, I'll give an example. Nike, some of you know Nike. Nike's partnership with LeBron James, for example, showcases the power of what they call predictive analytics. Yeah, when Nike, for example, signed a lifetime endorsement with James in that about 2015, they were actually banking on his continued success, on the court, on the basket court, his growing influence off the court as well, and the potential of his signature in terms of the shoe line. So LeBron's career trajectory and even marketability have actually, since proven his prediction to be highly profitable for Nike. Yeah, talk about Air Jordan. Who doesn't know that? I mean, let's go into it. So each of these cases, in terms of data analytics and predictive modeling, have played a crucial role in terms of optimizing decision making, leading to injury prevention, as I said, enhanced fan engagement, better talent scouting, lucrative betting strategies, profitable sponsorship deals, and these examples illustrate the growing impact of data analytics in terms of sports industry and its ability to transform the way stakeholders make decisions. Yeah, I'm going to take you through a ride in terms of the sports economics as an economic superpower, and this way, sports as an economic superpower. So the world of sports has actually emerged as a formidable economic superpower with significant global influence. Yeah, sports economics encompasses the study, for example, of what they call the economic aspects of sport, including the impact of economies, markets, and industries. So I'm going to explore how sports economics has become a superpower in terms of economic implications and the future in terms of the potential. Yeah, let's first of all start with the economic impact on host cities and regions. Just for example, yeah, major sporting events such as, for example, the Olympics or FIFA World Cup or what they call the Super Bowl in the US have actually a profound economic impact on host cities and regions. These events attract tourists, generated revenue in terms of local business. Talk about what Uganda being part of those guys hosting the Africa Cup. The investment opportunities, the infrastructure such as stadiums, transportation systems can stimulate economic growth for years. And these are things we're talking about. I'll give an example. In 2008, for example, Beijing Olympics brought a substantial economic growth to China with an estimated $40 billion of direct economic impact, including infrastructure development and tourism. Yeah? Let's just argue when it comes to media and broadcasting rights, for example. The sports industry, yeah, including television, digital streaming, and radio, is a major driver of sports economics. Broadcasting rights and even advertising revenue are a key income source for sports organizations. High-profile events and league command lucrative broadcasting deals, contributing to the country's economic clout, as it were. I'll give an example. In the US, you could argue in terms of what they call the NFL. The NFL television contracts in the United States are among the most valuable, with high fees exceeding $100 billion for a decade-long agreement. Think about that. Yeah. And then another important aspect is what they call merchandising and sponsorship. That's another one. We're talking about the superpower of sports now. Yeah, sports teams and athletes benefit from merchandising with branded products like jerseys, for example, or what they call jerseys, for example, or memorabilia, for example, and even licensed merchandise, generating what they call substantial revenue. So sponsorship deals with major corporations further boost what they call economic power of sports. I'm talking about the superpower called sports. I'll give an example. Nike's sponsorship, for example, of the NBA is worth approximately about $1 billion and extends the brand's global reach influencing what they call consumer behavior and even purchasing decisions. Yeah. So I don't know, with the countries like Africa, we were gifted with sports. Why would we take advantage of this giant called sports? Yeah. How about sports betting and gaming? Yeah. The legalization, for example, and the expansion of sports betting and online gaming have actually created a new economic frontier. Yeah. This sector, for example, generates a revenue for government, sports organization, and betting operators, contributing to the economic impact of sports. I'm going to give an example. Some of you think I'm arguing from the air, like they say. No. New Jersey's sporting betting market, for example, which expanded significantly after the U.S. Supreme Court ruling, generated over $6 billion in bets. That is as far as 2020. Think about it, supporting local economic growth. Yeah? How about if we argue in terms of tourism and hospitality? I'm talking about this giant called sports. Yeah? Sports events draw tourists, yeah, and spectators from around the world, boosting tourism and even hospitality industry, yeah, in terms of stadiums, in terms of hostels, in terms of restaurants, in terms of transportation services, in terms of the benefits of the influx of all the visitors that are likely to come. I'll give an example. Think about this, yeah. The what they call the Monaco Grand Prix, for example, is a renowned motorsport event that transforms the tiny principality into a major tourism hub, significantly contributing to its economy. Think about it in Monaco. But how much tourists flood because of just seeing that? Yeah. Then we could argue in terms of what they call grassroots and community impact. Sports at the grassroots level promote what they call physical fitness. Who doesn't know that? It promotes education and community development. So these activities have economic implications by reducing what they call healthcare costs, fostering human capital development, and increasing community cohesion. I'll give an example. The sports, in terms of the Sport for Development and Peace initiatives by organizations like United Nations, promote sports as a tool for social and even economic development, particularly in developing nations. Yeah? And if you're arguing that in terms of what they call future potential, I'm going to give you some aspects in terms of the future of sports economics as a superpower, which definitely appears promising. So as technology, globalization, and data analytics continue to advance, sports economics will likely become an even more influential area. So digital innovation, for example, virtual reality, for example, and blockchain technology may transform the sports industry, creating what they call economic opportunities. Yeah? So, my friends, these things that I'm talking about are super, super important, and we need to think about them. I'm thinking outside the box and throwing the box away. Sports economics has actually firmly, as I said, established itself as a global economic superpower with wide-ranging implications in terms of economies, in terms of industries, in terms of societies. So as the industry evolves and even embraces new technologies, its economic influence is actually poised to grow even further, making an essential contribution in terms of economic policy, but also in terms of business strategy, worldwide. Even politics. Talk about individuals in soccer who have become presidents, you know, in Africa, who I'm talking about, yeah? So I'm going to provide also what they call real-world monetary terms and examples that will illustrate the economic impact of sports as an economic superpower, yeah? And I'm giving practical, serious, empirical, evidence-supported examples. In terms of the Olympic Games, for example, in 2012, the London Olympic Games generated an estimated about 9.9 billion pounds. That's about $13.6 billion in economic output for the UK. In 2016, Rio Olympics led to an estimated about $1.16 billion to boost its tourism revenue for Brazil. Yeah? FIFA World Cup. In 2018, for example, FIFA World Cup in Russia generated an approximate of about $14.1 billion in direct economic impact for the country, including tourism, infrastructure development, and even job creation. FIFA's financial report for example, 2018, in terms of World Cup, shows revenues that go up to $6.4 billion. Think about that. Now, in terms of media and broadcasting, the NFL's broadcasting contract in the US states, yeah, which ran for a decade, are worth about $100 billion. Yeah, the English Premier League that many of you are hooked up television rights deal, for example, from 2019 to 2022 was valued at about 4.7 billion pounds. That's about $6.5 billion. Think about that. In terms of merchandising, in terms of sponsorship, Nike sponsorship, for example, dealing with NBA, estimated to be worth about $1 billion for about 8 years. And in 2020, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo was actually reported to have made approximately $105 million from endorsement, including his deal with Nike. Think about that. Sports betting and gaming. The US reports betting markets saw a total wager exceeding $21 billion in 2020. Think about it, generating millions in tax revenue for the state. Yeah. In UK, for example, the gambling industry contributes about £3 billion. That's about $4.1 billion in tax revenue for the government. Yeah. I'm not even arguing about tourism and hospitality. Monaco Grand Prix that I talked to you about earlier draws thousands of visitors, contributing significantly to the tourism industry in Monaco. For example, Hotel de Paris, one of the city's luxury hotels, sees significant, what they call uptick in terms of bookings during the Grand Prix. Yeah, the Super Bowl, for example, in Miami, generated an estimation of about $572 million in terms of direct spending, benefiting local businesses and even the hospitality sector. Yeah, so these examples provide concrete evidence of the monetary returns associated with various aspects in terms of sports economics. Yeah, in terms of the hosting major sporting event, to broadcasting rights, to sponsorship, and even sports betting industry. The financial impact of sports is substantial and demonstrates the industry's status as an economic superpower. Listen, my friend, if there's anywhere to go for Africa, it's the area of sports, because we have the gifts, we have the talents, we have guys winning medals left, right, and center in athletics. Name it. How about helping them comprehend? How about helping ourselves? Let me give you some other celebrities. I know I talked about Cristiano Ronaldo because it's a favorite of some of you. Cristiano Ronaldo's earnings consistently ranks as one of the most highly ranked, athletes globally, earning over $100 million in a single year. Think about it. Evidential value. His earnings come from his lucrative soccer contracts, endorsement with brands like Nike, and even what they call the CR7 that and his status as one of the most remarkable athletes globally. Yeah, let me give you another interesting one. Lionel Messi. Yeah, his earnings. Lionel Messi, like Ronaldo, is one of the top earning athletes globally with annual earnings of about $100 million. Think about it, $100 million. Messi's earnings stem from his soccer contracts, for example, including lucrative deals, obviously, formerly with PSG, if you remember, and now in the US, and also endorsement with brands like Adidas. Yeah? Let me give you another. This is the guy called Conor McGregor. You remember him? The wrestler, what do you call him? The one of this other guy who likes kickboxing. Yeah? Yeah, he earned around $180 million, making him one of the highly paid athletes in the world. Yeah? McGregor's earnings come from his earnings as a mixed martial artist, yeah, including his bouts in the UFC, as well as his business ventures and endorsement. Yeah, he does the things like what Golola does. Yeah, so think about it. How about Floyd Mayweather, the money man? Yeah, Junior. Yeah, his earnings, for example, in about 2017, is reported to have been about $275 million from his highly publicized bout with McGregor. Remember that fight, yeah? So in terms of evidential value, Mayweather's earnings are primarily from his career as a professional boxer, including pay-per-view revenue from his fights. Think about it. How about your guy, LeBron James, yeah? LeBron James, in terms of earning, LeBron James is one of the highly paid NBA players, okay? And with an annual earning of exceeding $90 million. Yeah, in terms of evidential value, his earnings come from his NBA contract with with Lakers, and the endorsements with Nike and other brands, and those cumulative places that where has been an investment in terms of entertainment and even in media ventures. Yeah, I'll give you another guy, what they call Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, in terms of earnings, is one of the world's highest earning entertainers. He earned about $80 million in just way back in 2021. In terms of evidential value, Swift's income is derived from her music sales, for example, tours, and even endorsement deals, showcasing the financial power of the music industry. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about your guys here yet. I'll not mention any of them, but you know them. But let's talk about Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Yeah, his earning. Dwayne Johnson is one of the most highly, earning actors in Hollywood, earning around $87.5 million way back in 2020. Think about that. Yeah. So in terms of his earning, They come from movie roles, endorsement deals, and his business ventures, demonstrating the financial success of what they call crossover athletes and entertainers. Yeah. So, my friends, these individuals and their earnings highlight the significant financial returns in both the sports and entertainment industry. So, it's evidence of their high, income is apparent through the contracts they do, through the endorsement they do, through the deals they do, through the marketability of their personal brands, and their financial successes underscores the power and influence of top athletes and entertainers in today's global economy. So, I mean, we just kind of underestimate the power of sports. As I said, this is the giant. This is an elephant of sorts. Neymar, many of you like Neymar Jr., yeah? His earnings, Neymar Jr., as a Brazilian soccer star, consistently earns about $70 million per year, including endorsement. Yeah? If you're arguing in terms of what they call evidential value, his earnings primarily come from what they call his contracts with PSG and the endorsement with deals with brands like Nike and even Red Bull. Yeah? How about your guy, the tennis guy, Roger Federer? You remember him? Some of you probably remember. His earnings in terms of tennis, as a legend, Roger Federer has actually been consistently among the highest earning athletes, with an annual earning exceeding about $80 million. Think about that. In terms of evidential value, Federer's income is actually derived from his tennis winnings, endorsement with deals and luxury brands, and his own brand of Roger Federer. Yeah. So even though they may not be on the top, but the fact that they've been there and they know how to manage, it makes the case. Yeah. How about musicians like Beyonce? Yeah. Some of you know Beyonce. Beyonce is one of the highly earning musicians, having earned about $80 million in a single year. Think about that. In terms of her earnings, basically coming from music, tours, and endorsement deals with Pepsi and even L'Oreal, and even her, Ivy Park clothing line. Yeah. So, guys, I don't know what I can say and what I would say, but I'm just giving you an example of the heaviness or the superpower of sports, and how we should be careful to take every mandate, every legal mandate, every social mandate, every policy to make ourselves to put ourselves in that position where we can be able to harness the best out of sports, even as a country, more majorly, because of the potential and the giftings that we do have. There's a guy called Drake, for example. He's a rapper and a musician. Drake consistently, for example, ranks one of the most highly ranking entertainers with an earning of about $75 million. Yeah, think about that annually. Yeah, and his income basically comes from music sales and tours and endorsement deals with brands like Apple and even Nike again. Yeah, I could give an example of another guy called Tom Brady. Some of you know Tom Brady. In addition to his NFL contract, Tom Brady earned about $75 million from endorsements in a single year. Think about it. So in terms of Brady's endorsement deals with brands like, for example, Under Armour, even Tag Heuer, and even IWC. So they have actually added a lot on terms of his earnings. And this is the point I'm trying to say. So how I wish people like Chapter Gay and the likes, could be harnessed and helped in terms of understanding, fathoming this ideology of us, how to prepare them and even save them from embarrassment in the future. So as I said, the incomes basically come from a combination of the salaries and earnings and respective fields and lucrative endorsements with deals and with major brands, for example. These individuals are not only successful in terms of their craft, but also they represent the economic power of the sports and the entertainment industry. If you're to argue, just for argument's sake, let's make a comparison between Lionel Messi's earnings in terms of Uganda's GDP. Yeah, Lionel Messi's earnings in comparison with Uganda GDP provides a striking illustration in terms of economic disparities that exist on a global scale. And I'm going to break it down for you in terms of critically giving empirical support. Lionel Messi, for example, in terms of his earning, as I said, is among the highly paid athletes globally. In recent years, his annual income has actually exceeded $100 million, including salary and even endorsement. So Messi's income, sources include things like salary from top clubs. Over a period of time, like FC Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, and where he is in America now, and as well as highly lucrative endorsement deals with brands like Adidas and Pepsi and others. Now, if you make that comparison in terms of Uganda GDP, Uganda is obviously a landlocked country in East Africa with a developing economy, yeah? And Uganda's GDP was estimated to be about 33 to $34 billion, yeah? So the country's economy is basically based on agriculture, in terms of coffee, tea, and other agricultural products being the major exports. So Uganda also faces challenges in terms of what we argue in terms of poverty, limited access to education, and even healthcare disparities. Now, if you have to critically analyze this comparison between these two guys, and guys in quotes, in terms of economic disparity, the comparison between Lionel Messi earnings and Uganda's GDP underscores basically the significance of what they call economic disparity between a highly paid athlete and an entire nation. Think about that. So Messi's earnings are actually more than 3 times the GDP of Uganda, and this highlights the vast difference in terms of economic resources and opportunities. Yeah, which actually makes our case a bit tricky. So in terms of economic challenge for Uganda, just like any other developing country, faces economic and challenges including large population living below the poverty line, limited access to education, obviously healthcare. While Messi's earnings are actually substantial, they actually far exceed what a developing country like Uganda can actually generate. Sorry for that, but that's the truth. Sometimes you have to call a spade and not a big spoon. In terms of global wealth distribution, when you make Messi Uganda GDP comparison, it's a reflective of the global distribution of wealth again. It highlights that a small number of high earning individuals can actually earn more than entire countries, emphasizing the unequal distribution of economic resources in the world. Yeah, so why don't we focus on some of these giftings that we have? Guys who have been winning in Europe and in America and in Olympics, from Africa and from Uganda. In terms of role, sports and entertainment, the comparison underscores the economic influence of top athletes, as I said, and entertainers. So these individuals earn vast sums due to their talent, obviously, to marketability and endorsement deals, making them economic powerhouses of their own. Yeah, and if you're arguing that in terms of, as I said, in terms of the high-earning individuals like Messi, their earnings contribute significantly to the global economy through their spending, obviously, and their investment and their philanthropic activities. So it also emphasizes the need for wealth creation and addressing economic disparities, even at a global level, perhaps. Yeah. So, my friends, even as we make that comparison, we are careful to note that the comparison, as I said, between Lionel Messi's earnings and Uganda's GDP, as I said, highlights the stark economic disparities that exist on a global scale. So while Messi's earnings are actually a testament of his success in sports and entertainment, it also serves as a reminder of the complex economic challenges faced by developing countries like Uganda and the broader issues of global wealth distribution. Yeah, I'm going to give you another one. My favorite, Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe, like Lionel Messi, is one of the highly earning athletes in the world. Yeah, so when you compare Mbappe's earnings to Uganda's GDP, we can actually see a similar pattern in terms of significant economic disparity. And I'm going to analyze this for you in terms of a comparative, critical, disposition, if you like. Now, Kylian Mbappe, yeah, my guy, basically is among the top earning soccer players globally, and his annual income exceeds $30 million, which includes his salary from PSG and various endorsement deals. Yeah, so Mbappe's endorsement contracts include agreements, for example, with major brands like Nike and Hubolt and even EA Sports. Yeah, now when you make that comparison with Uganda again, as mentioned earlier, Uganda's GDP basically estimated about 33 to 34 billion dollars, reflecting its status as a developing country. Yeah, and in terms of critical analysis, this is where the things get interesting. Again, the argument of economic disparity continues, similar to Lionel Messi comparison in terms of Kylian Mbappe's earnings to Uganda's GDP underscores again the ongoing economic disparity. So Mbappe's earnings represent a fraction of the GDP of a developing nation. Yeah, and that's funny. Not so. That's funny but true. Yeah, in terms of the impact of sports and entertainment, when you're arguing in terms of the comparison, in terms of the highlights, the enormous income potential in sports and entertainment industry, and that's the argument that top athletes like Mbappe, through their talent and hard work and marketability, can actually earn substantial incomes. And that's the point I'm trying to make. If we could do that for our giftings, Mbappe could easily be seen like any other Musoga guy walking on the streets of Busoga. Not so. So think about that. So in terms of global wealth disparities, it emphasizes again worldwide issues in terms of wealth distribution, where high earnings individuals can actually surpass economic output in terms of the entire country. So such disparities, as I said, can actually be a reflection of the global economic inequalities. Not to mention other people like Michael Jackson and like who earned heavily again, or even boxers like Mike Tyson and the like. So in terms of economic challenge in Uganda, as I say, Uganda, despite its GDP, faces economic challenges related to poverty and education and healthcare and economic development. And as I say, the difference between Mbappe's earnings and Uganda's GDP shows the economic hurdles that developing nations must overcome. Yeah, and if you're going to argue in terms of what they call philanthropic and even social responsibility, the high earnings obviously of these athletes like Messi and Mbappe often engage in what they call philanthropic efforts in terms of supporting causes and initiatives that aim to address societal issues, including those related to poverty and equality. How I wish that would be the case. Yeah, I would imagine if one of these guys just left wherever they came and they said, this year's earnings I've given them to Uganda, how much impact would that have on our country? I know, but the question is not to wait and pray for them to give us. The question is to work hard and attain our own individual economic excellency in terms of the giftings that God has given us as a nation. And that's what I'm saying, and that's the point I'm trying to say. I say there's no difference between these guys, because after all, we probably carry the same DNA. I mean, especially for the likes of Kylian Mbappe, as I said, that have been estimated to have over $30 million per year. And if you're gonna break down these earnings into different time frames, for example, and convert them into Uganda shillings, for example, based on the exchange rate of about 3.8375 this morning, it was about 375. Yeah, we can calculate the following. Think about this and take this serious. I'm gonna do that for Mbappe. Yeah, if you're talking about annual earnings, and Mbappe's estimated annual earnings, as I said, about approximately $30 million. Yeah, in Uganda shillings, an approximate rate about 3.6, for example, per dollar. That would be about 30 million times about 3.6, which is about 108 billion. Think about that. Yeah, in terms of monthly earnings, if you're gonna talk about 30 million, divide that by month, that's about $2.5 million per month. In Uganda shillings, that's about $9 billion. No, shillings per month. Think about that. In terms of weekly earnings for Mbappe, weekly earnings, that's about $30 million divided by 52 weeks. That makes about $560,000 per week. Think about it. In terms of Uganda shillings, that's about 2 billion, about 2.7 billion, about 2.1 billion per week. Think about that. In terms of daily earnings for Mbappe, if you're calculating on the rate of $30 million for the 365 days, that's about 82,000 per day. That's about 296 million per day, approximately. Per day, that's what your guy Mbappe gets. In terms of hourly earnings, hourly earnings at the rate of $30 million, as I say, annually, divided by 365 by 24 hours, that's about 3,000, maybe about 3,500 per hour dollars. That's about 12 million per hour. About 12 million per hour. That's what your guy is getting. Now, if you argue that in terms of minute earnings, at that same formula that I'm using, that would mean that this guy is getting about 205,000 per minute. 205,000 shillings per minute. Now, if you argue that in terms of second, this guy would be would be earning about 3,500 shillings per second. So every second, 3,500 shillings is getting into this guy's bank or whatever. Think about that. So if you're arguing in terms of your guy, Kylian Mbappe, critical analysis would argue that the breakdown of Kylian Mbappe's earnings in different time frames converted to Uganda shillings illustrates the substantial income that top athletes actually do earn. And his annual earnings, when converted, represents a significant sum, obviously, in Uganda shillings. As I said, it's important to critically consider the economic context in terms of Mbappe's earnings, while the extraordinary involvement in terms of the stand or the contractual or economics that are involved here may face some challenges in terms of developing nations like Uganda. Again, it emphasizes the vast income disparities that exist, but also emphasizes the power of sports. I think that's the point I'm trying to argue here, and how sports analytics could help to make our case even better in terms of making our economic stand become more stronger. Let me ask you also in terms of favorite people, because when you talk about Kylian Mbappe, you may also want to talk about your guy Ronaldo, who recently signed a new 2.5-year contract with Al Nassr as a free agent that will keep him at the Gulf Club until 2025. His decision obviously came after his contract with Manchester United was mutually terminated in the mid-season of November 2022. Cristiano Ronaldo's salary, for example, at Al Nassr is estimated nearly about $204 million a season. Yeah, think about that, making it the highest football salary in the world, and his weekly wage will be around $3.9 million. So while the contract involves 2.5 years of playing at Al Nassr, it also includes a 5-year commitment to represent Saudi Arabia as an ambassador. Think about that. And this will be the first time Cristiano Ronaldo leaves the European circuit, as it were. If you're arguing in terms of your guy, my favorite, Kylian Mbappe's salary as of now, according to the new deal with PSG, Mbappe is set to earn about $63 million per year. Yeah, and this means that his weekly wage will be approximately $1.15 million. Furthermore, the World Cup, being a World Cup winner, he will probably is a substantive potential World Cup winner in terms of the bonuses that come with it. You know, that came with it at that time, about $126 million. That's about 100 million pounds. You know, in terms of bonus payments, in terms of the goals, in terms of UEFA Championship. So Kylian Mbappe started roughly about $12 million more than his teammate Lionel Messi in terms of the former teammate in terms of the figures. Lionel Messi salary, for example, is estimated about $41 million after he joined. That was after he joined PSG from Barcelona. And the 7-time Ballon d'Or winner is actually earning a weekly salary about $800 million, yeah, and $800 million, right? And I mean, so these are questions that you ask yourself in terms of where we're going and how sports can contribute. Another teammate is your guy, Neymar, yeah, the Brazilian guy, probably one time also the most expensive player of all time. Neymar, who actually joined some teams, including PSG, signed a contract with PSG, and this brought him about, he was valued about $36.5 million, yeah, while his weekly wages were about $700,000. Think about that. So, I mean, there's in Iniesta, for example, so for those of you who know Iniesta, former Barcelona icon, who, you know, had about the same, almost, or maybe a little bit more. People like Kobe, remember Kobe, the guy, the NBA guy. So I could mention several other people in terms of their earnings, but related to, you got to contextualize it so that you can comprehend and have the feel of what we're talking about. So if we're going to break down these top footballers in terms of both USD, United States vis-a-vis Uganda shillings, and examine how these annual earnings actually compare to Uganda's GDP and income per capita for every average Ugandan, you know, using the rate of 3,700 or 3,600 UGX per dollar, then the story would be as follows. In terms of Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, as I said, the annual salary of USD $214 million. In Uganda shillings, that's about what, 214 billion shillings. Think about that. That's about monthly 214 million. Divide that by 12, that's about $17.83 million. Think about that. And in Uganda, that's about 17 billion shillings. Daily, $217 billion. In terms of Uganda, about 2.1 billion. Think about it, daily. Now hourly, 214 million. Divide that, that's about 24 US dollars. That's about 87 million. 87 million. You know, think about that. In terms of minutes, it will take you to about 1.5 Uganda shillings. Yeah, and if in seconds, it will take you to about 255 shillings per second. Think about that. Yeah, so if you're getting 255 per second, man, goodness me. Well, I mean, these are horrible figures. Cristiano Ronaldo's earnings versus Uganda. Cristiano Ronaldo's earnings is significantly higher than Uganda's GDP, which is approximately $34 billion. And the income per capita of an average Ugandan, as I say. So his daily earnings are far exceed Uganda's capita, per capita income, emphasizing again the vast economies disparity, but also emphasizing the sports, the power of what sports can do and how we can harness this Kylian Mbappe, as I said, annual income about 63 USD, yeah, million dollars. Uganda shillings, that's about 63 billion shillings. Monthly, that's about 63 million. If you divide that by 12, that's about 5.2 million dollars. In terms of shillings, that's about 18, yeah, million. Think about it, yeah, billion shillings, yeah. In terms of hourly, if you argue in terms of hourly, it's about 71 million, you know, for a question of hourly. In terms of minute, it's about 1.1 or about 1.2, call it, million shillings per minute. Think about it in terms of shillings. Second, it's about 407 shillings per second. Think about that. Yeah, that's incredible stuff, guys. That's incredible stuff. So Kylian Mbappe's earning versus Uganda. Kylian Mbappe's annual earning also surpasses, as I said, Uganda's GDP and the income per capita in terms of average Ugandan. So his daily earnings are consistently considerably higher than the per capita income, underscoring again the importance of economic disparities. I mean, I could talk about Lionel Messi, I could talk about LeBron James, I could talk about any other guy that you probably want to mention. But listen, the point I'm trying to make here is the emphasis that sports dynamics, sports logistics, in terms of decoding, in terms of understanding how to govern our sports industry, is a potential. And I'm saying it goes beyond the physical, simply running and doing the exercises and jumping left, right, and center, doing what other things, pull-ups and stuff like that. It involves brain work, and that's the point I'm trying to make. It involves brain work, and that's the book that we are writing now: sports coding, decoding, and logistics, in terms of enhancing the future. What Uganda can comprehend in terms of doing a comparative analysis. These guys and most of these teams, these superstars that you're talking about, don't just go there just for the sake of talent. Ask Ronaldo. Ronaldo works hard, but it also involves logistical preparations. It involves policy framework, substantive preparations. It is a whole game of things. It's not just a question of something small. It involves discipline also. Argumentatively, discipline also goes with the things that I'm talking about. So even as we make a case, I know we have a book on sports and the law, yeah, but now we're doing another one on sports and what? Logistics and decoding, so that we can comprehend and try to explain to you the logistical stuff, the brain work that is involved here in terms of preparing a giant. Yeah, as I said, some of these things are done over patterns. I was in Europe and I was watching the European whatever, and I there were people who were doing the logistical, statistical analytical data for certain countries, and they will tell you that Luogo, when he's in a goal, naturally we have observed from the last like maybe 70 games, every time they hit the ball he dives on the left. So they prepare the guy who's going to shoot, say all you're going to do is shoot on the right, because innately or even subconsciously Luogo is going to dive on the left, and these things work out. These are the things I'm talking about. You're studying athletes or heavyweight champions. Like now we have this Cameroonian who's going to box with Tyson Fury, yeah, in Saudi Arabia, and they're studying, they're doing the studying, and they're saying, okay, Tyson Fury does ABCD, he's very good at this, and then this other guy does ABCD, he's very good at that. All we're going to do, as long as maybe you can resist him in the first 4 rounds, or if you can maintain the left, or if you can do a hook, everything that that causes excellence is a question of studying the system. So if we can learn to prepare our athletes in terms of studying the system, preparing our minds, and that is the argument I'm making, and that's what I'm saying, how I wish the law could encompass many of these things, creating avenues and policies and frameworks and what centers that go beyond the physical trivialities and think about the brain work that is involved. Yeah, 80% or 90% is about the brain, and everything is going to do in terms of excellency has to do with the brain. So that's the advocacy that I'm trying to make. And so my friends, I would like to thank you for your attention, and God bless you. Please visit our website alubago.org and suegeneslawup.com, but also remember to subscribe. These YouTube videos are only done for your own good. We're not competing with anyone, we're just breaking the ice, and we're trying to be a good brother for our nation and for our friends. God bless you, and thank you for your attention.